02-11. Site 7's Vault C hums like a sleeping beast. I'm alone with the master archive, our clean copy of history, scrolling through a containment log that should have been routine. The camera shows a box on a table. The box is labeled safe. A tech leans in to dust it. The footage shivers. For 3 frames, the box is somewhere else in the room. The tech doesn't notice. And the only reason we know is because the recording isn't his memory, it's ours. We record and archive the things people miss. We always do. I'm RAISA. Call me that. It keeps things simple. I'm a lead scientist at the Record Keeping and Information Security Administration, or RAISA for short. The RAISA department exists to protect the Foundation's memory, and what you're about to hear has been released under RAISA supervision for new hires and/or Foundation researchers. Think of it as a backup, a clean, accessible version in case the worst happens, and we need you to remember. And yes, we'll start with the word everyone learns on day 1, object class. But there's a reason we don't leave it at that, and you're about to see why. Let's start with the primary classes, Safe, Euclid, and Keter. Most of what you'll handle falls under 3 labels, but the words don't measure danger. They measure containment difficulty. Safe means we know the rules. We know the trigger, the edges, the box. If you lock it away and leave it alone, nothing bad should happen. Should. Remember, that's not permission to be sloppy. It's a sign the procedures are clear. Euclid. Euclid means unpredictable, not fully understood. If it thinks, moves, or just won't sit still inside our models, the Euclid class label buys us caution and headcount. Then Keter. It means if the box leaks or the thing walks right through it. Containment is complex, expensive, and fails in surprising ways. I want to remind you, Keter is not a value judgment. We have Keters that don't attack and safe class SCPs that will wreck a lab if you give them a chance. The point isn't fear, it's logistics. About 90% of what I know about these SCPs comes from recordings, lab notes, and audits. And about 10% is experience. Standing in a corridor while the lights dim in unison and someone on the radio whispers, "It learned," before turning to harrowing screams and sounds of gore. That was my experience, watching in Euclid, becoming Keter in real time. The rest of that report remains expunged. You only need the lesson. Its class reflects how hard it is to keep the world normal. Next, let's go over the tool class, Thaumiel. Every so often, an anomaly is better as a tool than a prisoner. That's Thaumiel. Objects the Foundation uses to contain other SCPs. Their mere existence is ultra-restricted. Even their names can be withdrawn from standard indexes. If you were to see that information, we at the RAISA department keep splintered access keys amongst individuals, which never turn unless those people turn them together. Now, here's the operational wrinkle. Under the Anomaly Classification System, or ACS, Thaumiel is treated as a secondary class, not a baseline containment class. What that means is under normal practice, you'll often see primary labels such as Safe, Euclid, Keter, plus a secondary marker basically indicating we deployed this. If you think the paperwork looks fussy, it isn't. It's how we keep the weapon pointed the right way. Like I said, most of my experience is secondhand, war room recordings, those read-only views of sealed memos, a time-stamped clip where a Thaumiel curtain of nothing swallowed an open breach like a zipper closing. I watched that from a red team room with the speakers muted. The audio was already redacted by RAISA before it ever touched the floor. Now, the end and the edge, the Apollyon class. We avoid this label because you don't put it down lightly. Apollyon. It marks anomalies that cannot be contained or are expected to breach irreversibly. They're often tied to global K-class endings. When a file bears that sigil, RAISA's role shifts. We become triage, prioritizing preservation of knowledge, not a perfect copy of reality. We duplicate the record into cold storage and off-site mirrors that won't show in normal inventories. Think of it this way: almost all of you will never see those copies unless you have to rebuild history from ash. Apollyon planning documents are the densest things I've ever read. Whole sections are just references to other sealed sections. But we do that on purpose. In the wrong hands, the plan can create a breach. So, for example, you'll read, "See Appendix B," but Appendix B is redacted, not to be cruel either, to keep the door closed until the day it must open. Want to hear something interesting? Archon and Ticonderoga. It's when not containing is containment. Archon is the class for anomalies we could theoretically contain, but shouldn't, because doing so would damage consensus reality, collapse critical systems, or cause broader harm. Think of an anomaly woven through a city's structure like rebar in concrete. You don't yank it out without bringing the building down. Our files for Archon cases include long, careful rationales, cost-benefit, ethics, fallback plans. The margin notes are often just one sole word: observe. Ticonderoga looks similar on the surface, but it's different in two crucial ways. It marks anomalies that cannot be contained and do not need to be contained, at least with our current reach and resources. Sometimes they're everywhere, sometimes they're far away. We monitor, we log, we stand ready to change the label if the situation changes. Some Ticonderoga protocols even allow rapid reclassification if the anomaly starts to disrupt normalcy. I've watched an Archon case breathe under a city like a sleeping animal. The footage looked like heat shimmer over asphalt. I watched for 11 minutes before RAISA had to change its classification. They pulled me out, then expunged the rest of the viewport cache too. If you ever see one, you'll understand. Nothing usually happens. That's why it's terrifying. We do get some cases, however. Cases when anomalous becomes explained, neutralized, or decommissioned. Files don't just start, they also can end. 3 labels mark that side of the map. Explained is for things once thought anomalous that turned out to be explainable by mainstream science, or misreports we corrected. The record stays, tagged and cross-linked, so nobody reinvents a ghost story. Neutralized means exactly what you think it means. The anomaly no longer functions anomalously, either by being disabled, destroyed, or burned out by accident, on purpose, or design. We keep X anomalies on the ledger. The world has a way of surprising you. Decommissioned is the heavy one. Historically, the site once had a different, frankly messy use of decommissioning that RAISA does not endorse. The modern decommissioned marks anomalies that the SCP Foundation intentionally destroyed or stripped of anomalous properties for pragmatic or ethical reasons, with oversight from higher authority. The paperwork is exacting: risks, suffering, resource costs. Documents like these are where you'll see most expunged data. That isn't drama, it's respect for the living and for the truth. Lastly, here's why RAISA cares which class you pick. On paper, object class just looks like a label you pick from some drop-down, but in practice, it's how we decide who gets to go home and how the world remembers it. It's budgeting and boots. It's whether we build a box, leave the door open, or refuse to touch the load-bearing pillar in the middle of the city. It's whether we allow the plan to be seen by 1,000 eyes, or redact it to 3 so the plan survives the week. As RAISA, we don't fight with rifles or sigils. We fight with memory through copies, verified logs, withdrawals, and releases. This orientation was released under RAISA supervision. For you, new hires, or our current researchers, the next hands are on the wheel. If you're hearing it, something needed to be backed up. Maybe the power flickered. Maybe a file stuttered. Maybe the world twitched for 3 frames and then pretended nothing happened. Just remember, when it does happen, remember the rule that lives underneath every class you've learned tonight. The label is not the fear. The label is the plan, and the plan is how we keep the SCP Foundation alive. RAISA Site 7, Vault C.